Day 7. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about goals. In a recent article that came out at the end of this past year in December, only 33%, 1 in every 3 Americans, plan to place a New Year's resolution. And so I think goals are extremely important, and I don't really know how you can just continue to chase something if you don't have a goal, or continue to work towards something if you don't have a goal. And so goals are important to me. I've went through different phases where goals look like different things. And so at certain times, there were several years where I was focusing on one word. And so that word would look different from year to year. And what I would do is take all of my goals for that year and think about themes or different ideas that maybe would capture the essence of all of those goals. And so one example is a lot of the goals one year were around like wanting to do more and be more disciplined with exercise, be more disciplined with eating habits, be more disciplined with my connection with some of my old friends that I haven't kept in touch with. And so there were so many different areas that discipline seemed to keep coming up over and over and over. And so my one word for that year was discipline. There's also been other years where I just made a list. Here's my 10 things that I want to accomplish in the year. So different years have produced different things. The one consistent thing that's important about goals, whether it's choosing one word or a lot of different goals, is to continue to bring those back to mind. So when I think about, the one word, if I were to think about it in January and not think about it again until December, guess what? I would have a hard time remembering what that word even was. And so there were times where I would choose a word and get to the end of the year, hadn't really thought anything about it, and I forgot my word. So there's an important part of not just setting goals, but reminding yourself and thinking back on what those goals are. Same thing, whether it's one word or making a list, it's really important to keep those things in front of you and to continue to come back to them so that you can see, how am I progressing? How am I doing? Is this still a goal of mine? I think that's really key too, is, through the year, things can change, and where you may have a certain goal of, doing a certain kind of race, through the year you may realize hey, this doesn't really interest me anymore, and rather than running, I've really gotten into biking, and so now I have a new goal, and it's over here, it's not over here. So I think that's one thing that is important, is to hold your goals a little bit with an open hand, not in a way that will excuse yourself if you don't achieve it, but in a way that creates some flexibility, that if your hobbies or interests change, or your job situation changes, or your family or living situation changes, there's some flexibility. There's some bit of an open-handedness that leaves you the ability to pivot and make some changes. So one goal for me this year is to create a YouTube channel. And part of that is really to think about the way that I communicate with other people, the way that I can communicate with an audience who I don't see their face, the way that I present. So in my job at work, I spend a lot of time presenting to different audiences. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 people on camera, and sometimes it is a room of 500 people, and we're all in person. I don't do well in those situations, or haven't in the past, and so that's why my goal to start a YouTube channel has really, the basis of that is to get better at presenting, to get better at communicating my thoughts and getting my thoughts into words and articulating that in a way that can be received. And that's really what led me to doing this 30-day challenge. And so I'm 7 days in. I'm really proud of the fact that I am a little under a quarter of the way through this. And that is a challenge and a goal that I set for myself this year. So that's kind of the basis of why I wanted to create a YouTube channel. But there's also some other reasons. Becoming a better communicator is certainly one of the big ones and some of the foundation of that. But another one is like, I just want to capture moments that, if you think back, if you're an 80s child or a 90s child, you remember the home videos, camcorders all around, and home videos were just like, that is a nostalgic piece that I love to go back and revisit. And it's so much fun to look back and think, I remember that. I remember, walking around that house and the brown shaggy carpet. I remember that. And so I feel like we've put those cameras down, and now we have cell phones and those capture moments, but we're living in more of a TikTok world where you're getting 5-second clips of what's going on around you. And we really lost that, somebody turning on a camera and walking around for 5 minutes. And so part of what I hope to achieve in capturing these moments is really going back to capturing the essence of a moment or the essence of a time frame, whether that's on a trip, in our house, just hanging out with the kids, or running or racing or whatever it might be, capturing those moments so that when we look back in 5, 6, 7 years, 10 years, 20 years, if YouTube is still around, hopefully we're still around, we'll be able to look back and just savor those sweet moments. And so that is part of the reason why I wanted to start a YouTube channel. I think the last piece for me really is just around the fact that I wanted a challenge in an area that allows me to be creative. And I really struggle a lot of times. I feel like in conversations, even in real conversations where I'm asked to give my candid feedback, I'm always withholding a little bit. And while I try my best to be authentic, sometimes I feel like there's pieces of me that I'm still holding on to a little bit of how I feel. And I don't know if that's an insecurity or something that's just not allowing me to be a little bit more vulnerable, or if I feel like I need to be a little more polished. And it would be not very professional for me to just unload on this or share my raw thoughts. I wanted to create this YouTube channel in a way that helps me get my thoughts out of my head, through my mouth, in a way that conveys really what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling in an authentic manner, but also in a real, candid, open, honest manner that I can walk away from conversations and not think to myself, man, I wish I had said these things, or have to go back and circle back with somebody to say, hey, I didn't say this in the moment in front of everybody, but here's one thing that's really sitting heavy on my heart, and I'm struggling to get past this. I don't like the way that this is happening, or this is really bothering me. We should be moving in this direction, but it feels like everybody else is moving in this direction. And so part of this creative space that I want to move into and open my mind to and continue to learn and grow in is the fact that I want to move in a space to be more vulnerable, more open. And I feel like if I can be that way with you, with looking into the camera at people that I've never seen, potentially never met, I can do that with people that I have seen and I have met and have those deep relationships with. And so I'm excited. Again, those are 3 big reasons why I wanted to start this channel and challenge myself in this way. I hope that by the end of this year, I will be able to check all of those boxes off and say, hey, I'm not perfect in any of these areas, but man, I started over here and I've finished over here, and I'm really dang proud of that. So thanks for coming along. Drop me a note in the comments. Let me know what some of your resolutions are, your goals for this year are. And if you're doing this 30-day challenge as well, let me know that. Drop me a note in the comments. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know that, hey, we're on this journey together, and hey, that's okay. We're not perfect. As long as we're growing, as long as we're setting goals, as long as we're working towards something. Thanks a lot. We'll see you on the next one.